My name's Paul. I'm 34 years old and live in Bournemouth in the southwest of England. I'm a motivational speaker, but what people don't know about me is I suffer with a condition called hyperhidrosis, an excessive sweating disorder. According to the NHS, over 1 million people suffer with hyperhidrosis, yet there's still a clear lack of knowledge and understanding around this condition. I'm going on a journey to learn in its entirety hyperhidrosis, to meet other sufferers, to see how it drastically affects them, and actually maybe some skills and tips that they've learned along the way. But also to be a champion and break down this stigma that it's just about being sweaty. I've suffered with this condition for over 20 years, yet very little help or support has been available for me. Those with hyperhidrosis have an overactive nervous system, causing excessive sweating of about 4 to 5 times the amount of sweat that we know is necessary or know as normal. Mainly I'm affected in my face and scalp, which leads to other complications such as psoriasis and eczema. These are quite common areas for people to suffer from, but also within under the arms, in the armpits, hands, feet, and more uncommonly in the groin and back. There are a number of treatments available, and the ones I'm aware of are Botox, which is injecting into the affected area with effectively rat poison, blocking that channel. There is also medication, but that doesn't come without its complications because it can create dizziness, faintness, vomiting, but what I most commonly noticed was a dry mouth. So it made it very difficult for me to have a conversation with somebody. There are antiperspirants such as Dry Claw, and again my experience of that was it aggravated my skin, it made it very sore, angry, and actually quite painful. There is iontophoresis, and what it does is it's electrical currents that block the neural pathways to the sensitive nature of the sweat gland. One of the treatments which I found out about, which really scares me and is quite controversial, is a treatment called ETS. It's the endoscopic thoracic sympathectomy, which basically involves deflating somebody's lungs and destroying that nerve trunk. That to me is something that's really quite concerning because the body is designed to cool the temperature down, and actually if you then permanently eradicate that, A, where's the other compensatory sweating going to occur, but secondly, what are the long-term possible effects of that? I don't think there's enough evidence around it. Although 1 million people suffer with hyperhidrosis, due to a lack of awareness and knowledge, many people have never been diagnosed. They may be unaware that the condition exists, but equally, many people struggle to get a good referral from their GP. I'm going to meet a young man called Toby in Portsmouth, who still continues to struggle with receiving the correct diagnosis and treatment. Hi Toby, how are you doing?
Well, I started suffering from it when I was about 12 or 13 years old.
It's quite young, isn't it?
Yeah, and it was primarily around the armpits at that point. And it wasn't until about 2 years ago when I was about 18 or 19, and that was when I started getting facial sweating. And that made the biggest impact on my social life. You know, I had techniques when it was just the armpits. You could put extra clothing on, you could wear black and white colours. There's no way of hiding your face.
Can you trigger it back to any point to when potentially you think something that might have instigated?
The first time it occurred, I just finished my last exam of the first year of university, and I went to the pub to celebrate, and it wasn't a particularly warm day. I bought the first drink, sat down, just had a sip or two, and I noticed I was sweating from the face, which was, you know, foreign territory really. And as soon as I noticed that, you know, it just exacerbated from there, and from then I was really concerned. So I went to the bathroom, looked in the mirror, because one of our friends even picked up on it and said, you know, are you alright? And I was confused myself, so I sort of, you know, told a lie and said, you know, I'm not feeling very well. Went home, sat in my room and just thought, you know, where's this come from? So I saw my doctor about it, and he thought it was might have been anxiety related. So I had cognitive behavioural therapy for that, which hasn't helped. I had 10 sessions of that.
They prescribed CBT, cognitive behavioural therapy, to deal with the sweating.
With the sweating.
Because they were making the assumption that the sweating was purely down to anxiety.
They thought that hyperhidrosis was secondary to the anxiety.
Really? You know, it's really interesting to hear that still you're seeing a GP and there's, you know, they're sort of almost inferring that it's just something you've got to get over, but actually they're not really appreciating the true value of how it affects.
Some of the GPs I've seen, you tell them, okay, I'm sweating from the face. What can I do about that? Their reaction is it's either anxiety related or it's tough, basically. I haven't had an alternative. What I'd like is a referral to a dermatologist and maybe try some alternative.
So you've not had a referral at all to a dermatologist?
No, and my first doctor's appointment for hyperhidrosis was when I was 16 and I'm now 21. My social life's, you know, gone to shatters really, because I used to be a really confident guy and I used to see my friends all the time. Because it worries you so much, you avoid those situations, and when your friends talk to you and they say, just come out, come on, they don't understand how hard that is to do.
No.
You know, that's a very difficult decision to make. At the moment, for me, there is no hiding from it. I just have to put up with it at the moment because I haven't found a way of treating it.
Today's been really interesting meeting Toby. It was almost like looking at a younger version of myself. And I really feel for Toby because I remember being 21 and being quite heavily affected by hyperhidrosis and really not actually being able to, even at that age, I didn't really get what was wrong with me. I was just highly embarrassed about it. And it certainly wouldn't have been a conversation I would have had with my friends. So in some respects, Toby's ahead of me in that because he said that he has told some of his friends. But actually, I still feel quite sad for him, the fact that he avoids social situations just because he's got a condition that means he overly sweats compared to his sort of contemporaries. Today, I'm off to visit a lady called Sue. In the past, Sue has been very conscious of her excessive sweating. And although Sue still has hyperhidrosis, she's become very good at hiding her condition and finding ways to cope. Hi Sue!
Hello.
Hi, nice to meet you.
Come in. I've suffered from it since I was 3. Growing up was particularly difficult. I didn't do anything specific for it while I was a child.
No.
It was only when I was a teenager that I then went and sought treatment.
How do you find it now? So you said it went from your hands to your feet and then to your underarms. When did that happen?
The birth of my first daughter, 11 years ago. Obviously, it's a time where you're a new mum.
Yeah.
It's a stressful period anyway. You're going completely into the unknown. And also, there's a little one, you're holding a baby, so you're more conscious of your baby becoming wet, the baby clothes. And at a time when you should be enjoying things, you know, a birth of a new baby, it just takes the edge off of it. You're so conscious of it. And it was at that time that I then sought treatment because it was really real for me then. That was probably the worst time.
Through your experience, what sort of treatments have you received?
Right, well, when I was a teenager, first of all, the doctor... Well, first I was told I'd grow out of it, and obviously I didn't. Then the doctor, I was seen by a consultant who prescribed me beta blockers that weren't obviously specifically for hyperhidrosis, but said, you know, sometimes this works, sometimes it doesn't. Give it a try. They are for heart conditions, and I haven't got that, and I didn't know the long-term implications. One of them, I know, one of the side effects was a dry mouth, and I did, and I really didn't like taking them, and I came off those very quickly. I tried the creams, which they masked it a little, but they certainly didn't, not to a great degree, so we kept on trying. So I had hyperhidrosis treatment, which involves putting your hands in a pool of water with an electrical current being passed through.
Would it be possible to have a look at it?
Absolutely, yeah.
Brilliant, okay, great. Have you got other things as well?
Yes, I've got some. This is what I use. This is the hyperhidrosis machine. I don't currently use this. No. I use the cream if I need to.
So when you were using this, obviously I know that you would have water in it. How long would you have to sort of have your hands in it for?
It's not for a very long time. I can't remember specifically how long. It's been quite a while since I've used it. But it's filled with a small amount of water, but I had to have that mixed with glycopyrrolate solution. Yeah. Because the water on its own didn't work for me. No. And then you put your hands, or it can be used for your feet, into the water. And it feels like from the tips of your fingers going up your arm, what I can only describe as like severe pins and needles. Yeah.
These are the pads that people wear, aren't they?
Yes. I haven't actually used these myself. Yeah. These were given to me by the Hyperhidrosis Society to try. Sure. And I didn't think I'd get on with them. I can open one up to show you. They're literally...
Oh, okay. So are they adhesive? So do you
So you would stick them to your clothing.
But what if you start sweating? Does the adhesive not become...
That would be my concern, and
Yeah.
I would be more conscious of this in a social situation, falling on
out.
out and on the floor, and then people wondering what it was, trying to kick
like
it
a dog
behind,
that just keeps attacking your neck.
underneath something, because it's just...
Yeah. So, have you got any images or anything of when your hands have been really bad? Or...
I have. I took some the other day.
And you can see the drips.
You can actually see the drips coming down in the light.
Yeah, because you said you've had it at times where you've sort of
It
been
literally,
stood talking and you've got a pool of water
and I can have
collected.
a pool of water at my feet because it will just drip down. And it will
So
obviously,
that's-
if my hands are up there, will drip everywhere. I mean,
Yeah.
I put my hand on the wooden...
on the wooden table.
And you can see it leaves
You
the...
can leave them out. Well, thanks ever so much once again.
Oh,
It was
pleasure.
really nice to meet you.
And you.
Take
Bye.
care. Bye-bye. Just had a great session with Sue. Again, really interesting. And although we suffer from the same condition, totally different experiences. After meeting Sue, I want to actually start speaking to people to see if they've heard of the condition or they know what it might be. Have you ever heard of it before?
No. No.
Okay. Have you got any idea what you think it might be?
No. Something to do with being cold?
Never heard of it.
It's not something I've heard of, no.
Well, something that you're overactivating or something.
That is spot on. No, I wish it was sex.
Something to do with water?
Well, by the looks of it, no one really has any idea about hyperhidrosis. Next up, I'm meeting Jess. Jess is someone who doesn't let hyperhidrosis stop her in the slightest.
I was leaving puddles on desks and stuff.
Wow.
So it was getting quite bad, and I knew that that wasn't really normal, so I started looking into it myself. I mean, it's fine now because I kind of just get on with it. I don't really mind it anymore, but there are times like, you know, when I meet people and I have to shake their hands, I will kind of wipe my hands and air them out a bit. And like with my boyfriends as well, when we hold hands, if they're too sweaty, like we'll just make a joke and then we won't hold hands until they dry out.
But he was absolutely fine.
Yeah, he found it weird at first, but he didn't make it aware to me that he found it weird until later on in our relationship. But he's fine. Yeah, he doesn't mind. He's used to it.
Have you had mainly positive experiences of others, or have you had people sort of go, ooh?
I've had people go, ugh.
Really?
Yeah.
And have you been able to just sort of brush that off?
Yeah, I don't mind. Honestly, I've kind of grown to just be comfortable with myself, and I don't really care what people think of me anymore.
No, and do you know what? I think that's commendable.
Yeah.
I think it's commendable that you can be strong enough to actually think, well, do you know what? I don't really care.
Yeah.
Because I'm me, and me is good enough. But it's interesting because there's a lot of people that I've spoken to that they aren't as resilient.
Yeah.
And it really drastically affects them. And at the end of the day, the way I look at it is that, yes, we have a condition, but it doesn't mean that there's anything abnormal about us, and we're perfectly
not at
valuable
all.
people.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it doesn't really. It's not as bad as having it like in areas like your face or your armpits or whatever, because it's not as visible to people's eyes. So I can kind of get on with it easier than some people might. But at the end of the day, like, you know, if you make a big deal out of it, then other people will too. So
it was really good to just meet Jess, and what I found really remarkable about the whole story of Jess is that at such a tender young age of 21, she's so comfortable with her condition in her own skin, and I kind of think, God, if only I'd been that comfortable when I was 21. But it was really interesting to see, again, totally different way, but actually how she manages to stave off it being a negative. This whole journey's been a real eye-opener for me. Not only am I somebody that lives with a condition, but actually I've lived with it in silence almost. So to then have the opportunity to meet 3 individuals and to connect with others online has been phenomenal. But really, for me, this journey's been inspirational, and I really, really hope that actually for the viewers watching this, it will be inspirational for them too.